Ernest Woods, how are you, sir?
I'm good. How are you doing?
Hey, man, I'm doing really well. Cheers to you. Happy birthday, America. 4th of July is in 2 days.
Happy 4th.
Yeah. You and I come from different parts of this country. You are 4th generation here. I haven't been here 4 years. And here we are sharing a drink, appreciating, Idaho and the United States and, what you do and what I do. God bless it.
I would like to think I know Idaho. I've been here my whole life. Eastern Idaho, we pick on them, but they're still Idaho. So,
if you know Idaho, man, what is Idaho?
Well, the last 5 years, it's a hodgepodge, mixed up mess. But before that, Idaho, at least the Idaho I know, was very, that's the word I'm looking for, very congenial, very kick off your shoes and sit a spell kind of Idaho. People were polite. Even today, you go over to the Star Merc, and if you're not holding the door open for someone, doesn't matter gender, nobody cares. Someone's holding it open for you. That's Idaho. Somebody's holding the door open for you. That's Idahoan. That's our values. Got a lot of newcomers. The thing that I've noticed, and don't get me wrong, I'm not picking on newcomers. I married one.
No, there you go.
And she's fabulous. But a lot of times their head is still where they came from.
How do you mean?
Well, I have a really good example, but I don't want to throw that person under the bus.
Just call the person Bob.
Bob. For example, a recent newcomer was like confused about car titling, and you gotta pay the back fees because you didn't register your car. We don't do that in Idaho. They do that where they came from, and they were freaking out because, well, you owe all this money because that car has been sitting there for 2 years and it's unregistered, and you got to pay the back fees. No. Not here, maybe back home, but not here. We don't do business like that. So okay. At least not yet. I don't know. Eventually someone not from here will get elected and try and change that because they always have a better idea. I don't know. But.
Man, I worry about that sometimes. Yeah. I think I was chatting with somebody just this morning about, they'd put up this silly meme that was essentially like, it's so funny that Democrats make horrible policies, destroy their area, and then they flee the area that they destroyed. And obviously it's, making commentary on newcomers coming here. It's like, listen, if you're somebody who loves those policies, this is the last place in the world you want to move to. Right now, I think there is real education. Like you're saying, hey, look, we don't do business this way. I had Mayor Trevor Chadwick on probably a year or two ago, and Great guy.
Yeah.
Great guy. Like, it's startling how nice and, yeah, I mean, just so congenial. So, again, on point. But chatting with him, the articulation of the anxiety that the culture will be lost in these great transitions, in this great flooding of Idaho, I share that concern. Now, I'm not even sitting here telling you I know what Idaho is, and I'm not sitting here telling you like I'm the one that's going to teach the next round of people what the culture is. I'm trying to hold the door open for people like you who do understand culture to be able to transmit it so that we can all orient ourselves. Like, this is a really important thing to do, because if we don't do that, nobody's going to learn.
Idaho had a culture and has, but you got to go back to kind of the old school to find it. There's new people. Things are going to change. For example, Middleton now has liquor by the drink, and it's because of the newcomers.
What is liquor by the drink?
It means you can go into the bar and buy a shot of whiskey.
And Middleton didn't have...
For 70 years.
Wait, there was not a bar where you could get a gin and tonic?
No. You could buy a beer or a glass of wine, but you couldn't buy hard alcohol. No, it wasn't available. City council over there, nope, don't want it. So that's the way it was for 70 years over there. But Middleton's a very spiritual, religious, conservative area. But it's the newcomers who said, no, I want to drink. So, I want to go into the Chap. I want to go into the bank. I want to go into the local Mexican restaurant there and have a margarita. So they voted for that. And now you can have a drink in Middleton.
Was that voted by the city council, or was that like a city ballot initiative or something?
It was an initiative, yeah. Yeah.
So that aspect of that culture, gone.
I don't think so. It's still alive. I mean, the folks that don't want to drink won't drink.
That's true.
And the folks that want to go into the Chap and let me have a whiskey and sour, they're good to go.
What do you think about that as somebody, again, fourth generation? Like moving from the state that shall not be named, to be clear, I was first generation there. My dad had been born in Arizona and my grandfather was born in Mexico, from my dad's side. That's a different thing, right? Like I personally, my family do not have roots. I recently was in Lucca, Italy, and my mom's side came from Lucca, and they came from Lucca not even 4 generations ago.
Antonio.
But it was pretty wild. I got to be honest. It was wild being there. I could eat all the bread. I'm gluten-free here, which is why I can't drink a beer. But there, I ate all the bread. Like I ate all the pizza. I ate all the bread they served. It was no problem at all. I was like, dude, we are getting scammed big time.
Yeah, we are.
But again, what do you feel about that? Because I don't have the capacity to orient myself to your perspective.
All I can do, I grew up in McCall. When I was really young, we were down here in the valley, and that's when Boise stopped at Orchard. You know where Orchard is? Orchard in Fairview?
I'm going to nod my head.
Okay. Look it up.
Yeah.
Orchard? Yeah, Orchard. Or maybe it was Curtis. I don't know. Somewhere over there. It was right on top of the bench. Pretty sure that's Orchard.
Gotcha.
I haven't been there in a long time, but I've been over here. But you come up the hill, you come up that Fairview hill, onto the bench, onto Fairview, you take the connector, and anyway, Boise stopped right there back in 68, 69, 70. And between there and Meridian was nothing but farms, except Samzo's, Zips Ice Cream, Pojo's, and there was the Fairview Drive-In movie theater, and the Golden Wheel. That was pretty much it between here and Meridian. Nothing but farms. Or from there to Meridian, not here, but
yeah.
Nothing but farms. And so I saw all that, and in 73, my dad was born and raised in Boise. He was born, so he says, I have no way to verify, but he was born, you know where the Thelma Morrison mansion is?
No. Who's Thelma Morrison?
It's, one of the elites of the area from clear back into the early 1900s, possibly before.
Okay.
There's a mansion on top of the hill that overlooks Ann Morrison Park.
Got it.
Thelma is the second wife after the first wife passed away. Morrison remarried Thelma. And that mansion, built the mansion on top of the hill over Ann Morrison. I don't know.
So Anne's the first wife. She passed away. There's a park named after her. Thelma was
But Dad says he was born on that lot. This was long before the man, because back in the 30s, Dad was born in 36. And in those days, the poor people lived up on the hill because all the rich people were down in the valley. That's the way it was. And he was born up on the hill in a dirt floor shack because that's how poor they were.
This is your dad?
This was my dad. And he was born with every disadvantage. But by the time he was 8 years old, he was selling newspapers in front of Albertsons at 17th and State before school. And he got to know Joe. He knew Joe Albertson, as well as an 8-year-old, I guess, could, selling newspapers in front of the grocery store. But kind of a neat little story.
Yeah.
But in 73, Dad says, I've always wanted to live in McCall. And I was like 8. And up to McCall we went. And that's where my formative years, most of my memories are from there. And I guess my formative values as well.
McCall is a different place now than it was.
Every kid should spend a summer in McCall with nothing to do but enjoy the lake and hike the mountains and just enjoy what's there. Of course, they got to turn off their phone. I didn't have a phone back then, so I got to really enjoy and learn about what was there, where to fish, where to hunt. I have secret hunting places up there. And I go there now, and every license plate is all lined up. I'm like, what are all these trucks doing here? This is supposed to be a secret. And they all say California on it. And I'm like, oh my God, what's going on here?
You had one too many drinks and let the secret spill. That's the problem.
Right. Well, one of them, actually, this happened. You go just north of New Meadows, and you turn there where it drops into the canyon on the Little Salmon, just before that. And back up in there, Bruce Willis actually owned a ranch. I don't know if he still owns it, or I don't know what he's doing. But anyway, at the time, he owned it. And every morning you drive by it, break of daylight, and the ranch was full of elk. They're just everywhere. Well, hunting season, you go up there, and you can't hunt the Willis Ranch, but you can hike around it, and there's lots of elk. And I went in there. I'm like, oh, yeah, going to my secret spot on one of them. And guess what? There's just trucks lined up, parked along the road, and 90% of them had California plates. And I'm just like, how did these guys know this? What's going on here? I'm not throwing rocks at Californians. Everybody wants an elk. God bless them. But it was a shock to me.
When was this time frame? Just a couple years ago?
Probably. No, we're talking somewhere in the 90s.
It was already happening.
Yeah. See, that's the thing. That's the thing is a lot of, especially if you're new here, and I'm sure this is true whether you're from Washington, Oregon, or California, or possibly anywhere else, but you're looking at the social media swipes against, particularly Californians.
Sure.
This isn't new for Idaho. It's been going on since the 70s. You're new here. You think it's new. But if you've been here that long, no, it ain't new. Idahoans have been swiping at Californians for decades. But that's, I don't know what else to say about that. It's not new.
Yeah, and I've been trying to understand the right way to view the sometimes tenuous relationship between newcomers and other people, because you do read on social media, or I have yet to actually meet somebody who's antagonistic towards people who've moved here. Now, mind you, that's coming from somebody who knows other people that have moved here. I'm like, you're kind of an idiot. So it's like, look, idiots appear everywhere, whether they're from California, they're native to Idaho. You're going to find a certain population of people everywhere that you don't really enjoy. That I don't think that represents that population, right? Like I'm sure you know people from high school that you didn't think were great people, and those, may have been people from Idaho. But
I was on the hate Californian bandwagon for years. I was raised in it.
But here's the thing that I don't understand how. We're about to celebrate 4th of July, right? Everybody has the flag out. Everybody's excited, celebrating our country's birthday. And at the same time, it's like, okay, but we want to splice that up, right? Can we appreciate each other as being Americans? Or is it really like, no, I like America in the abstract, but in reality, what I like is mine. And by the way, I have these great resources. Like, here's one for you. When I was, the day Princess Diana died, I remember this distinctly. I was in Santa Cruz, California. My aunt and uncle had for a Christmas present. I was a little kid.
And there was something shady going on. But I'm sorry not to.
Listen, I'm not saying you're wrong. I was just a little kid. And I remember because we were there for that thing, for the gift. They were like, hey, look, we'll take you guys to Santa Cruz for, a couple nights, which was great, right? Love the beach, love Santa Cruz. And I remember at night at the hotel rooms, like it was on the news, Diana had died. And it's almost like with the elk analogy, it's like, okay, I grew up going to Santa Cruz And when I was a little kid going to Santa Cruz in the late 80s and the early 90s, it was a different Santa Cruz than it is now. And it's almost like I get mad at everybody for making Santa Cruz different than what it was when I was a kid. And it's like, it doesn't work that way. Like Santa Cruz was never mine. Santa Cruz just existed and people enjoy it. And I'm trying to orient myself to people who are really mad that other people come into Idaho. It's like, Idaho is not mine. Idaho's not yours. Idaho's part of America, and people are going to come here. And I'm not saying that's, that problems don't come along with that, but I think at some point we have to orient ourselves towards America and other Americans.
Well, I think America is unique in that we're one of, I want to say the only country, but I don't know that that's true. I haven't been in every country in the world, but we're one of the very few countries in the world where anyone can come here and become an American. I can never go to Italy and become an Italian. I can never go to Scotland and be right, mate, right? And I can't go be English. I can't go be Angolan. But anybody can come here and become an American, because American is about an ideology of freedom. And I don't know that we're the only country like that. I've heard there's other countries that are, well, for example, in Angola, the locals, the guys, I was there training men to become submarine pilots. And they told me, oh, no, Mr. Wood, you want the property? You go out, you stake it off, and you build a house, and it's yours. You don't have to pay nobody. You don't have to pay the government. You don't have to file any paperwork. As long as you're living there, I don't care. It's yours. Funny side note is I did spend some time in Luanda, and there's like 14 million people there. Trash everywhere, but we won't get into that. But I'm asking the locals because I want to learn. I'm curious. I'm like, so Fonzo, what his name was Fonseca, and
like the Fonz?
No, his last name was Fonseca. What is it?
Okay.
Anyway, I asked him. I said, Alberto. I'm like, Alberto, Angola is so warm. You could grow food all year long. How come nobody grows the food? I go, do you have a store you can go buy like seeds and grow,
like a nursery?
Yeah, crops to eat, like squash and beans. And he's like, oh yeah, we have all of that. I'm like, how come I travel around Luanda and nobody's growing a garden? How come nobody grows a garden? Oh, he's like, oh yeah, you do not understand. Yeah, you can buy the seed, you can plant the garden, you can grow the crop, but you wake up in the morning and there's no crop. And I'm like, what do you mean? He's like, well, because the neighbor took it. And the funny thing I learned, and I got to be careful here. I don't want to say I know. I'm just saying it's an observation. Is over there, they don't view taking things as, oh, no, I'm not stealing. I'm doing a business. I'm a businessman. So if I come and take your item and go sell it to that guy, I'm a businessman. I'm not stealing. What? No, I'm not a thief. Just a businessman. There's kind of that ethic. I don't know that it's nationwide, but I ran into that there. It was interesting, just as a social observation. Trying to tread because you know what? There's a lot of really good people over there, and I met some fabulous men and trained some fabulous men, and they're hard workers. And in their country, they're working offshore, and they're making an exceptionally good living compared to the average resident of Angola. Or I worked in just about every country from Egypt all the way along the west coast down to Namibia. And some real fabulous people there, and some people that you don't want to close one eye on them. But that's just life.
And so in recognizing that, when you talk about the ideology or the principles that make the United States, and how anybody can adopt them, what do you think those things are? Is it the distinction where it's like, no, man, you take something that's not yours, then we call you a thief here.
I think we really need to get back to the Ellis Island, the promise of America. You come to America to become an American. You don't come to America to be a Hispanic American or a Mexican American or an Italian or whatever, wherever you're from. No. You come here to be an American. We're one of the only countries that anyone can be that, an American. So you don't come here to be ex-American. You come here to just be an American, because it's not about your bloodline. It's not about your lineage. It's about adopting the ideology and defending the principles of freedom. That's what makes you an American.
Do you feel like we've lost that?
Yeah. Yeah, we've lost that. I try to analyze why. It all leads back to big media, big bucks, big agendas. It's kind of scary.
I worry about, and perhaps I go out on a limb on this one, but I worry about more nefarious international actors that look at the United States and have, like if you look at the way, these large scale turmoil campaigns, for lack of a better word, but large scale, problems erupt. It's kind of like, this would be really good for a country that doesn't like America, right? It'd be really good to stoke these flames. It would be really good to promote these dissenting views, to foment, insurrections and cultivate turmoil within the American community. Did you ever see that ex-KGB interview with a gentleman from, I think it was from the 80s, and he was talking about Russia's long-term campaign to essentially defeat America. And one of the things the individual said is, and again, like maybe they were lying about who the individual was, but the point is that he was saying, like, look, number one thing you got to do, you got to demoralize America, right? Because if you have a community and a country that has a very strong moral grounding, they're very hard to persuade. They're very hard to mess with, right? So you got to demoralize them right away. And you got to break up family structures, because people that have very, very, very tight-knit family structures are exceptionally hard to mess with, because they have a family structure that necessitates certain principles of protection and promotion. And they're not going to mess around with that, because people care about their kids a lot, right? They're going to do what's right by them. But the point is, he was saying all these things, and he was like, America is incredibly easy to demoralize. And I thought back, once I saw that, I thought back over the decades of American history that I knew, in, like, let's say the last 50 years. And it does seem that there is a demoralization, as in, like, what are the American values, right? Like, right. How are we all united by specific values? And now you can't get anybody to agree on anything. You can't get people to agree on, guiding principles within a community, what we should be doing together. The concept of, like, a community good. Oh my God, get out with that. Like, try to articulate, fire service in the Star area as a community good. People are like, nope, I don't think so. I mean, it's an exceptionally nebulous thing to actually pin down.
I'd like to answer that with an example. And it's been years ago. It was late at night. I was reading something. And it was a commentary, and it said, when Abraham Lincoln read Captain Riley's journal, he was therefore moved to end slavery. And it slapped me in the face. I was like, wait a minute. I don't remember that in grade school or high school history. This is a very significant little thing here. And who is Captain Riley, and what's his journal, and what's this all about? And so I started researching. I'm like, who's Captain Riley? I never heard of no Captain Riley. And what did he write that moved Lincoln to say, no, we got to end slavery? That's significant in our history, and I didn't learn that in school. And I was like, politically, morally, I was upset. Just one sentence. Well, I found out that Captain Riley was an American ship captain who somebody beat me to it. I was going to do it, but They wrote a fiction, like a fiction book based on nonfiction.
Right.
And but anyway, I got online and I found it and I ordered Captain Riley's journal, and it came and I read it, and it was, as a book for reading, it is the most driest ho-hum book. But when you get to the end of it and absorb it all, it's fascinating. And Captain Riley lost his ship in the shoals in Morocco, northern Morocco, and he was taken captive by the Muslims. And he was in slavery for 5 years. And he kept telling his master, if you take me to the consulate, the American consulate in Morocco, I am a man of stature, and they will pay money and set us all free. And a lot of his men died, but him and 4 or 5 of them,
sure.
yeah, still alive. And this guy would beat him, and just the most horrible, horrible things. I won't even mention them because somebody will lose their lunch. But finally, 5 years later, he took him to the American consulate, and they did. Because he told him, he said, if they don't pay me the money, I'm going to gut you right here in the street. And he's like, okay, because I know they'll pay. And they took him. But it took him 5 years of being beaten and telling this guy over and over and over. And every time he'd tell him, the guy would beat him horribly. And he had to march through the sand with no shoes, the hot sand, and his feet were, the skin on his soles of his feet were burned off, and he still had to walk through it, and, all that kind of stuff. And he finally got back to America, and he wrote a journal about being captive. And Abraham Lincoln read it. And according to what I read, that's part of what moved him to, now we can't do this in this country where, we're all equal. That's what we're about. And that was enlightening for me. I really enjoyed that.
Did you ever read 12 Years a Slave?
No.
They did make a film about it. I read it before the film came out, and African American gentleman in the North, still during the time of slavery, goes out, hangs out with some people. I think he's in DC for something, and he's a musician and a couple other things going on. And they're like, "Hey, come play." I think he had like a violin or something, and he goes out to a bar with them, a restaurant, gets a drink, and then essentially gets drugged, taken captive, wakes up, he's chained up on the ground, beaten horribly, and then goes through this just absolutely unbelievable experience as a slave, and eventually is in the South. And he was successful at essentially distilling an ink out of like blackberries that he then was able to like scratch a letter on something, because he didn't have parchment, right? He didn't have paper. He was able to scratch a letter that he gave to somebody that left, and got, took it up north. Somebody had to come down from the north. And, back in the day, they didn't have driver's licenses. So there was this whole process of validating that these two men actually knew each other, and they knew, things that you couldn't make up, and, names and things of that nature. But I read that book, a bit ago, and years ago, and I was in tears at the end of it. And he makes it home, and he gets reunited with his family, and he's wondering where his son is, because his son was like a little kid when he got stolen, essentially. And his son had saved up enough money and had left to try to go find his dad and buy him out of slavery. And hearing that, you're just like, oh my God, I can't believe this was a thing. Like, this is so unbelievable. And of course, the author in the book becomes part of this, underground network that frees slaves and whatnot. And it was a true story. And you hear that, and it's like, good Lord, man, that the United States that we live in now is an imperfect union, right? And we're imperfect people, but, blood has been shed to improve this country time and time again, because you have Abraham Lincoln, who is inspired and moved towards action that caused untold numbers of deaths, but for a better ideal, for a better union.
I would on the issue of slavery, and these are as far as I know, my own thoughts. I didn't get them elsewhere. It's my own conclusions. But in my research, the British imported hundreds of thousands of Irish white people. Let's be blunt, and they were slaves in America. But that was Britain. It wasn't the United States. It wasn't the government we have today. That was Britain. But there was white slavery in America. And a lot of those Irish people built the foundations of this country with their bare hands. Likewise, you've heard of Barbary pirates. Barbary pirates had a history of sailing up to European nations and raping, robbing, pillaging, and taking the women and children into slavery and selling them throughout the Middle East and Northern Africa for 800 years before America was established. Well, Britain, the Plymouth Rock, 800 years before Plymouth Rock. I don't want to tell someone or invalidate their feelings about slavery in this country, but I want them to consider the whole picture. Let's be fair. That said, I lost my choo-choo.
If I may, that the reality is that history is soiled with horrible examples of this thing. Now, again, the United States absolutely participated in this engagement. So did almost every other country.
Right. But, and this is where I was going with that.
And again, to be clear, not to defend any
no.
like a single slave is terrible.
No,
just to think that the United States is uniquely bad in this way, I think is an inaccurate view.
Right. And given the principles we were founded on, I mean, I abhor the thought that people were enslaved, no matter what color they were. And there were white slaves in this country. Well, not this country. Maybe. They changed the name to indentured to make it sound nicer, but they were still slaves. Did you know Samuel Colt, the inventor of the six-shooter, was a white slave in America?
Wait, how did we get... No, first off, I didn't know that. And second, like, how are we on this topic?
I don't know.
We're talking about America's birthday. No, so Samuel Colt was a white slave in America.
Yes, as a child. And it was as a slave, working for a steamboat captain, watching that paddle wheel go round and round and round, that his mind went to work and invented the revolver.
How did he get out of slavery?
He worked his tenure. It was indentured, and he worked till the guy added a couple more years because, he wasn't a great guy, and I got free labor. So I don't know, taxes plus interest, whatever. But yeah. But
did you see State of Jefferson, Matthew McConaughey movie?
I did see that, but I'm old and I don't remember much of it. But I did see it.
Yeah, I was thinking about that literally just this morning. There's one scene Matthew McConaughey stands up for these in the beginning of the movie. He stands up. I believe he's part of the South, right? And stands up for this small not plantation, but farm where they were going to starve. People came to steal their stuff, and he stood up for them and defended this women and children, and then has to go into hiding because they're going to the guys, come on, what is it? The Confederates were coming back to kill him, right? The Confederacy soldiers were coming back to kill him. Anyway, so he gets hidden by these African-American former slaves in the swamps in the South, right? And he's living there with them, and he helps one of them break off this giant thing on his neck, and all these things. Starts organizing people, right? And along the way, other people who don't believe in what's going on come into the swamp and start living with them. And the reason I was thinking about this is because there's a scene where they have some small victory against the big bad guys. you have black people and white people living in the swamp together. And the white guys like roast this pig and, you know, kind of have this small celebration. And one of the African-American guys comes up afterwards when they're all like passed out. They've gorged themselves and drank and all these things, and starts like picking up some of the scraps from this pig that they had roasted just to eat. And this guy comes up and just starts giving him all this shit. And of course, Matthew McConaughey does what you think he's going to do. And he goes up and, you know, stands up for the African-American dude and gives him food, and he's like, whatever. I mean, that's the whole point of the movie, but
Right.
it's so hard to watch even that scene, because you're like, how could you take this position where you're only existing and alive in the swamp and celebrating because these people welcomed you into their safe haven,
Mm-hmm.
and they gave up their space and they're like coexisting with you, and you still give them shit over
Right.
eating some scraps of the pig you were just eating? Like, how is that a thing? And it's hard to imagine that people could be
Yeah.
like that.
Well, and they're still like that today. There are people like that. But I'd like to finish a point that I think is paramount. Again, my own observations. Maybe people agree, maybe they won't. But in terms of slavery as a country, America, the majority of it was under British rule, not our U.S. Constitution.
Mm.
I believe it could be said or defended that 1789, the passage of our Constitution that we have today, in itself banned slavery. How can you read that document and say, yeah, slavery's okay? Yep. No, you can't. You can't defend that. Not a reasonable person. Okay, so the Constitution itself banned slavery, but we still had slavery for 70 years. It was a very brand new, small, weak, tiny government. It took them 70 years to get the power and the moxie to end slavery. Democrats, by the way.
Oh my God. We're doing it.
They were.
We're doing it tonight.
I'm sorry, they were. Not picking on Democrats. I know some very fine Democrats, but we'll get off of that.
Oh my God.
Cut.
We were doing so well.
All right. But okay.
I did not know that was the time frame involved.
If you
it was
stop
really
it-
just 70 years from the creation of the nation to, hey, we have to stop this.
1864.
Hmm.
1789 to 1864, which was the Civil War, and the official ending of slavery. And yeah, you had some, plantations and people who didn't know, but that doesn't count. I'm talking about official government. Ended 70 years. And what new country in the history of the world, new government, new country, ended slavery in 70 years? I can't think of one.
How long did it take Canada? More than 70 years, apparently.
Well, yeah, there's still slaves up there, and they just don't know it.
Oh my God. Cut. Yeah. I being a Hispanic American,
You are? I
I've-
didn't know that.
yeah.
Not that
Yeah,
I
I'm
care.
50% Mexican. My dad was a first generation Mexican American.
Well, viva la something.
Las Vegas?
Yeah.
No. You know what's really interesting about that? When his father came over, if you were Hispanic, when you got married, you did not teach your kids Spanish because culturally you wanted them to assimilate immediately. And it was not an asset for your children to know to speak Spanish.
Right.
And it's funny now because he actually, he relates conversations he has with people. He was a physician and relates conversations with people that he has Hispanic patients that come in, and they talk to him about how, do you speak Spanish or not? He knows like enough, but he doesn't really speak Spanish. And it's an understood thing, at least the people that he speaks with, about like how there was a transition where initially in the 50s, it's like, you did not teach your kids Spanish, man. They were going to speak English. They were going to speak English well as they could. And then they were going to move on. And now, it's an asset to be bilingual. It's not a bad thing, but that's a cultural nuance that did change within the immigration population.
Well, again, being an American is not a bloodline. It's an ideological line. You can't move here and become a Sioux American. You know what I mean? You can't come here from... You have countries that are a nationality. America has no nationality. It's just American. And anybody that wants to be one can come and be one through the right channels. We have laws. But speaking of which, the 14th Amendment, which is real hot right now, you can go online to the Congressional Globe of 1866 and read the debates about the 14th Amendment from, was it President Andrew Johnson? Is that right? And Tillman, the senator that wrote the bill, and they very specifically say, no, if you're born from an American citizen, you're an American. If you're not, you're not. That's what that means. And they say that specifically. You can go read it. And it blows my mind. You got all these judges, oh, we don't know what they meant. Well, why don't you go read the Congressional Globe where they said what they meant? Don't you have a staffer that can do some research?
A staffer.
What's your problem, man? This is your job. You're paid a lot of money. How could you fail any more significantly? Send a staffer. It's online, for heaven's sake. I don't see why this is even a debate. It's right there in black and white in history. And either when they passed that 14th Amendment and their arguments and what they said, this is what it means. Either that's relevant, and I'm sure there's a whole lot of people that don't want it to be relevant, but either it means something or it doesn't. And if it doesn't, then why are we even messing with having a country and a constitution and things that mean things?
So, and again, please excuse my
get off
no. This is really important. I actually had a gentleman, man, I'm screwing this one up, but he came in to talk about the Constitution. And there are a lot of concerns about being in a constitutional crisis. We were talking about this exact issue. And I believe we're talking about birthright citizenship, right? Like that's the issue. And as far as I've been alive, I've always understood that. I've always understood it to mean, look, if you're born in the United States, you're an American. And it sounds like you're saying, hey, look, that's an interpretation.
No, it's not an interpretation. It says what it says.
What does it say exactly?
It says if you're born in the United States to an American citizen, you're an American. If you're born in the United States to a parent who has allegiance to another nation, you're not an American.
It doesn't actually say that last part, though, right? That's inferred.
No, they don't say that.
That's inferred. Or your inference.
If you read the whole debate, which is like 3 or 4 pages long, how can you not come away with that? I mean, it's pretty hard not to. And I'm not trying to, were you? But here's the thing. Say you're a Mexican,
sure,
married to an American,
sure,
and have a child. Well, then that child, is an American.
Yeah, no, that's what I've understood it.
The parent, as a Mexican, and you never got naturalized, then maybe you're not an American, but your child will be because your wife was an American citizen.
Sure.
Yeah, it's kind of like Obama.
Wait, what do you mean?
His dad was, oh my gosh. You want to hear another story from?
Oh my God.
You want to hear another African story?
This is, oh my God. I was ill prepared for this conversation. Go.
I know.
Go.
So I'm in a place. It's a Chevron camp. It's called Camp Malongo, and it's in the Democratic Republic of the Congo, and it's carved out of the jungle. And you come in and you land on the shore on the ship, and they bus you in, and it's just this big giant circle, like 5 football fields. And they got the compound in there, and they got all these little trailers and a place to go eat, and it's just clear cut out of the jungle. And they got a perimeter road, and when the orientation, you go in and they say, well, you guys, if you want to jog and you want to go around the perimeter road, you can, but don't do it alone, because guys that do it alone never come back. We never see them again. We have no idea what happened to them. They just disappear. Because this is in the middle of the jungle. It's just clear cut. Camp Malongo. And I'm there for, I don't know, a week. Another funny thing, the bats come in at night, and they're as tall as you and I, and they land in the trees, and you can walk right up to them, and they'll just hang there upside down and stare at you unless you try to touch one, and then it's like, it doesn't like that. But
I'm sure.
Yeah, but they're just, if you just stand there and stare at them, they're just casual, peaceful, great big flying
mammals.
Wow. Yeah.
Mammals, God bless them.
And they have all these little monkeys running around, and they have these feral cats, and the monkeys can walk up and pick up the cats, and they carry them around and they pet them. But if you try to pick up the cat, it'll run from you. You can't, I don't know what that's about, but anyway, so I'm in this camp, and I don't know, I'm there for my stay. I'm waiting to go offshore, and I finally get my call, and I'm getting ready to leave, and I have to go through the immigration passport dude, and this guy takes my passport, and he's Democratic Congo or whatever, and he's like, "Oh, you are American." And I said, "Yes." And Obama's president at the time. And he's like, he's holding the stamper, and he's got it in the air, and he's like, stamp with some ink, and he's getting ready to stamp my passport. And he goes,
he's just thinking,
"I have a question for you." And
like, "Can you stamp that before you ask the question, please?"
And he goes, "Do you like Barack Obama?" And I'm like going, "Oh God, this could mean whether I leave or not. Oh no." And I'm like, "Okay, quick. And I go, the thing that's most, I said to him, the thing that's most important here is, do you like Barack Obama? And he goes,
that's one hell of a response.
Yeah. And he goes, "Oh, yes, because," he goes, "Barack Obama is my brother. See?" And he's like, Do you not see? Do I not look like Barack Obama?" And I'm like, "Oh my God, yes, you do. You look a lot like Barack Obama." And he goes, "Yes, he is my brother. We are from, no. What's that country over there?
Hawaii? I don't know. Like,
where everybody's saying Obama's from.
Kenya?
Kenya. He's like, "I am Kenyan. I'm from Kenya. Barack Obama's from Kenya. He is my brother." And I'm like, "Yes," because I don't want to get into it. I'm like, "Yes, I see.
I see it."
And I said, "Yes, that Barack Obama, he is a good man." And he said, "Yes." And he's stamping my passport.
Your thing. Look, anything to stay alive.
I'm out of here. I don't care. I'm out of here. But yeah, you had guys disappearing from that camp because they had to jog so bad. They just, I don't know. They disappear. But everywhere you go with offshore work is all about safety. So safety orientation for everything. But anyway, that aside.
I mean, just to be clear, it was confirmed that Barack Obama was born in Hawaii, right? Like, isn't that his birth certificate? Well, I didn't follow the birther argument. I literally
the last professional that I know of, forensics, that said no, it had been changed because it listed a hospital on his birth certificate that didn't exist until 2 years after he was born.
Okay, so
it was the same building, but the name had changed. It was not the same hospital management operation in place.
So you feel that Barack Obama
is not? I think it's kind of moot at this point.
You know what? I suppose that's true.
I'm not on the bandwagon. I'm not on that bandwagon. My bandwagon is if you violated your oath, then you need to be tossed out, period. As late as 1936, you had sheriffs hanging politicians and officials for violating their oath. The sheriff would do that. Just take them downtown and hang them.
And this was without
in America.
Proper judicial process?
Right. It's clear that you violated your oath. Just drag you down and hang you. That happened in this country. I'm not saying it was the norm, but
it's
happened.
Probably not the right thing either. That's like Judge Dredd style.
Right. I'm not advocating.
I'm just saying. We can hang people in certain places in the United States or kill them, but you got to go through the proper judicial channels, like appeals and whatnot.
In today's climate, I would be happy that you just barred from office, lose your license, and not be allowed to serve anymore. We need, in my opinion, everyone that takes the oath to protect and defend the Constitution. How are you going to do that if you don't even know what it says?
I actually wanted this really interesting. There was a gal who got voted into office when I was in college, a conservative person in the Midwest somewhere. Anyway, she was 18, 19, and she beat out this career politician and got voted in. And this was in the early 2000s, because I remember seeing clips of this. I was like, this is wild. And the individual in a debate, the career guy was giving her a hard time about separation of church and state. And she's like, it doesn't say that in the Constitution. And he rattles off, shall not make a, policy with regard to blah, blah, blah. I can't regurgitate it. But it was wild because she literally didn't know what he was talking about. And then she goes into, some other things. And she does make it into office. And I always thought that was so crazy. I was like, how is this possible that this person got elected? Not by anywhere I was close to, but in the United States without knowing that stuff.
Well, and I've taken that oath twice, once in the Air Force and once for the Valley County Sheriff's Department, and years ago. And there does come a time when, how can I keep my oath and keep my rump out of jail? And that's a conundrum. It happens. It just is. And especially if you actually know what you took an oath to. I don't think 90% of politicians know what they took an oath to even do, especially a certain party. Not to pick on anybody, but how can you take that oath and then put forth an amendment that violates that oath?
Can I ask you something, real talk?
Yeah.
Did you ever see Game of Thrones?
Oh, I loved Game of Thrones.
Okay.
They need to do more.
They need to do more. We need to get the last books because the last shows have come out. We just haven't got. And I read the books and I watched the shows, and the beautiful scene when Jaime, the Kingslayer, is in the baths with Brienne of Tarth, and his cynicism and jaded nature come out as, the king's white cloaks, and he had, assassinated the Mad King, and he goes into this kind of rant about, he's like, they make you say oaths forever. You got to protect the weak, but not the weak of your enemy, and you got to do this, and you got to do that, and he essentially came to this point of recognizing so many contradictions that it was irrelevant what he promised to do, because he's like, there's no way to be a principled person and stand by these principles and function in the real world in this capacity. Yeah. And I watched that scene, and obviously that character is portrayed as, very, very flawed, but also this kind of truth, his cynicism is rooted in reality.
Lannister definitely had a foot on each side of the fence.
Right, and he had experienced it deeply, in practice. And I experience all sides of the political spectrum. And for instance, I had former Representative Todd Achilles in just on Monday, and he is in that show he announced his candidacy to run for U.S. Senate against Senator Jim Risch. Okay, great, and I've had Senator Jim Risch in.
Crapo. Sorry. I wish he'd run against Crapo.
I don't know the rules of the districting or what he's doing or whatever.
I know.
But he was telling me, he made a comment about how both parties want to sell off public lands. And I guess and he's running as an independent, and he got enormous crap for this. Just in like the 48 hours since he said it, because today's Wednesday and that was on Monday. And what was interesting, he texted me, he's like, listen, and I wasn't even asking about it. He's like, I'm getting all kinds of crap, and I have to keep reminding Democrats that they were in favor of Lava Ridge. And I looked at that text and I was like, man, you're 1,000% right. They had no problem taking public lands, offering them on a lease to a private entity that was going to park 700-foot windmills in Jerome, Idaho, or in Jerome County rather, and sell that power not to Idahoans, but to Southern Californians. And just, again,
I get it.
Learning that, I was like, if you go deep enough, it's like, which party is without flaw? Like, which party really isn't violating the oath? All of them want to spend money. Under all presidencies, debts have increased in my lifetime.
Right.
Although actually I have to be fair. Didn't we have a surplus under Clinton? We still increased the national debt under Clinton, didn't we?
Yes.
But we had a surplus in his second term.
But I think
I was very young when that was
the after effect of the Reagan years.
No, that was the .coms. That was the economy going gangbusters.
Bubble, right.
Yeah, that was. I'm talking 96 to 2000.
Okay,
that wasn't the Reagan years. Anyway, my point is that I deeply recognize the flaws in, let's say, the state that shall not be named, the Democratic governance in that state. Okay, great. But I also recognize flaws. I mean, here we are. We are now talking about in the state of Idaho, we are talking about a 4 to 6% holdback in budgeting because we gave out almost $450 million of tax breaks, and we overestimated the revenue we would make, and now we're coming up short in our revenue. I spoke with 2 members of JFAC just this morning that are coming in to speak about this. I was like, okay, so like, wait, if we're conservative, if we're fiscally conservative, how come we held back? We gave out $450 million of tax breaks, and now we have a revenue shortfall that we're going to have to shortchange our. Anyway,
where's it going?
My point is, I don't see. There's no entity where it's like, oh, you're beyond reproach.
Right.
That's what I see in the political world. So when you say, hey, especially one party, it's like, I would not be surprised if you said either party. Both are flawed. Both have,
of course,
done Americans wrong,
and
because they're for the party, they're not for Americans.
I pick on Democrats, but
Sure.
I consider myself more of a constitutionalist, though I'm not in the Constitutionalist Party because they're just too weak to do anything. They're too small. So I'm vote Republican, I guess. Just put that out there. I don't really like doing that, but I have friends and family and neighbors who are just darn good people. They're just good people, but they're Democrats. And okay, well, that's life. But Idaho, back in the day,
that's the political system, by the way. Like, we all get to have our own party affiliations. Is like, it's okay. But it should be okay.
But old time Democrats in Idaho and Republicans, they really weren't that far apart. They were, they were backslapping and having fun and making fun of each other for the humor value. And it was okay. But this was, 40 years ago. And some of us remember that.
Well, I don't think Frank Church and Cecil Landris are that old. These are some of the most beloved governors of the state of Idaho, and they were both Democrats.
I saw Cecil before he died. I was working at a company, and he come in, and I was the guy that come out and serviced his vehicle at the time. And I got to talk to him a bit. And, a lot of people loved Cecil Landris. It was nice to see him. I think he was about, he was in his 80s. And it was nice to see him. It was just nice. And there was no politics involved. It was just like, Cecil Landris, wow.
Like, oh my God.
Yeah. He's like, yeah, how you doing? He was a nice guy. So
I'm very fortunate enough to have Monica at church on very, almost regularly. Mm-hmm. And she brings a perspective of what Idaho is that is, it's really, again, as a newcomer here, I'm trying to soak up what Idaho is as much as humanly possible. And she brings some perspectives that are in some way unique. Like, I'm just trying to bridge the gap between my understanding and what I'm dealing with, what the history is here, how we got to this place, you know, where we're going now versus where we were going 30 years ago.
My experience, my upbringing, my culture, if you will, is welcome. Take off your shoes. That's Idaho. Holding the door open at the Star Mark. We could go over there right now and somebody hold the door open for you. Total stranger. And once in a while, yeah, somebody doesn't. And I think you're not from around here, are you? But
I was running into Dolphin Taylor's coffee shop today. I was very fortunate enough I interviewed Mayor McLean and ran in and texted, you know, the comms person. I was like, hey, does either of you want a coffee? And got a double shot on ice, and running into Dawson Taylor's, this guy, big old dude, opens the door. And I'm to the point where I'm too far away, so I had to get a little giddy up in my step. I was like, I'm not even close. You don't have to hold the door. But here he was, holding the door open, 2 blocks away from the Capitol.
I am a fan of political strategy. I just love the psychology. And the fact that they made the pride flag an official flag. And let me say this honestly, I don't agree with it at all. Oh my gosh. But as a political strategist, I'm like, damn, that was good.
Let me ask you something. Did you know that 74% of Boise children are within a 10-minute walk of a park in the city of Boise? Did you know that? 74% of kids, and she's trying to push to 100. Within a 10-minute walk. Not just a walk, but a safe walk. Did you know that I spoke with Senator Cody Galloway this morning as well about the homeless encampment prohibition for cities of a certain size? And Mayor McLean was like, yeah, camping is not a solution, nor is giving out sleeping bags. And she went into this big articulation of exactly why. Did you know that she looks for partnerships with builders? And she says, hey, look, we have this lot over here. We will lease you this lot at $1 per year. And you're going to build a beautiful, big apartment complex that has attainable housing. You're going to have commercial on the bottom, daycare, coffee shop, whatever. You're going to put it on a bus line. You're going to put it right next to a park. All of these things because we need housing that the average Boisean can afford.
Right.
She does these things. And all of that gets overshadowed, please. All of that gets overshadowed by the fact that there's a flag. And I even brought that up in the interview, which is, hey, look, I have all these questions for you about the actual operations of Boise. And I'm sure most people just want me to ask you about the flag. But what I know for sure is no matter what I say or what you say, if somebody likes your move with the flag, they're going to like it. And if somebody doesn't like the move with the flag, they're not going to like it. And can we just move past this and actually talk about kids having access to parks, being able to create more housing so we decrease the cost of housing on average, what we're going to do with homeless people in this city, because those are the things that actually make the city go round.
Well, get myself in trouble here.
It's fine. I mean, my point is that people talk about the flag and it's just like, I have a school board member from West Ada coming on tomorrow. Mm-hmm. And this person is going to come on to do a year in review. And I guarantee you the only thing people want to hear about with me and West Ada is the everyone is welcome here banner. Yeah. That's all they care. They don't care about graduation rates. They don't care about the go-on rates. They don't care about CTE programs. They don't care about the bus system, which is the largest transportation system, I think, in the state of Idaho. Okay. Like, nobody cares about these things that are the things we should be talking about. All they want to talk about was one teacher in one classroom with one poster, and that's it. And this is the problem, I think, with a lot of the information that goes out. We're looking past the actual things that make our communities go round.
Except
at large.
Spirit Media is not welcome at West Ada.
Why is Spirit Media not welcome?
I don't know.
What do you mean they're not welcome to West Ada?
I've offered them 4 pages of the magazine for $1,000 a month. And let their students produce 4 pages. I'll come in and teach them, show them whatever they need. Can't even get somebody to call me back. Student journalists. Help students learn journalism. In 4 years, no one's ever called me back.
Can I get the same deal for the ranch?
Hell yeah. There's strings, but we'll talk about it.
But we'll talk about it.
Absolutely. Can we go off on a tangent?
We can go. Dude, we can go wherever you want. Ernest, this is the wildest conversation I've had in a long time.
I started Star Spirit Magazine November 2020. We're almost on our 5-year anniversary. I'd just gone through a divorce. Very depressed.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that.
At the time. And living in a tiny attic above Helena Marie's wine bar in Star. You've been there.
No.
Oh my gosh, you haven't
never
lived.
invited me.
Well, we're going to fix that.
We're going to go.
Helena Marie's is the place.
And it's a wine bar?
Star. It's the place of, yeah.
Yeah. Dude, let's go.
Yeah.
Let's go.
Absolutely.
God bless. I can't wait.
And you'll love Helen.
I can't
Helen's been there. She's been there breaking her back for 20-some years. I won't tell the backstory because she'd be mad at me. But
Can you help me get her on?
Absolutely.
I actually just had Moya from the Wine Commission, Idaho Wine Commission on, and I have a bunch of different wineries and vineyard people coming on. And it's amazing that people were like, I had no idea Idaho did wine. I was like, there are vineyards. It's like everywhere. Wineries everywhere. Anyway, Holly and Marie's, you're living in an attic.
Can I tell a quick story?
You can go off on a tangent on your tangent.
But it won't go on.
Okay, great.
You got to edit this.
Okay. Wait, you want me to edit this?
Yeah, you can't do this because Helen will hang me. And she's like my sister, and she would not be my sister anymore.
Then hold this story till after the.
All right.
Just put a pin in that.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Cut.
But no, I'd gone through a divorce and found myself in a little tiny. I went from a 5-bedroom, not luxury, but
Nice
median home.
Yeah.
Just almost right across the street from Hunter Creek Park in Star to living in a little because I didn't want to leave Star. I love Star. I didn't want to leave Star. I wanted to stay there. So I was sitting above a wine bar and depressed and slowly sinking. I'm not going to say alcoholism, but
Close to it.
A heavy drinking lifestyle. And I had this group. Well, I'm sitting upstairs and I'm like, the hell am I going to do with my life now? Well, another side of me, I had worked for various companies. I got my degree in communication I started in 86. I graduated in, 96. Right. My ex-wife used to say, most people who went to college that long are
They're called doctors.
Yeah. Well, the other side of the coin is I worked through college and I paid my way. It took me longer, but I graduated and I didn't owe a dime. I didn't need anything forgiven. It was all paid for. So anyway, my first job, and I was in the communication, taking journalism and all that. My first job was actually for a magazine. And it was a real estate magazine, which the publisher ended up snorting it up his nose. But that's another story.
It was a different time.
Yeah.
It was a different time. Was that the 80s?
Yeah, it was. It was 86.
There you go.
And, well, I won't go there. But he was a likable guy, but he was just that biker rough animal on the Muppets.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Tasmanian Devil style.
Yeah. But anyway, I started there and then I did the college paper. We actually made national news on the college. I had worked for the college paper, and we had a Brazilian or something American, Belize, I don't know, somewhere down south, was the editor, because we got to be politically correct, right? We got to make him editor. And he shortly thereafter took $40,000 of the BSU's money and skated back to wherever he came from, South America.
Wait, he embezzled 40 grand and
Yes.
disappeared?
Yes.
This was a student?
Yes.
How did he get the money?
He was
What a
the
rip.
editor of the newspaper, and it came with privileges, and he's like,
Signing checks.
yep. And so the ASBSU shut down the college newspaper. And a bunch of us that were writing stories and stuff were like, hey, when are you going to start the paper back up? You know, this has been like a year.
Yeah.
There was no student newspaper at BSU. When are you going to start this back up? We're taking our journalism. We want to write. In the interim, ASBSU president, vice president, those people, they're like, nobody's reporting about what we're doing. We can do whatever we want. This is pretty cool. And oddly, student body government was in charge of the newspaper. They ran it. It was like, they were the overseers. And it's like,
Wait,
how
so
does that happen?
the government owned the press?
At the campus level, yes.
Yeah, okay. What could go
And
wrong?
so somewhere in between working for that magazine and this, when I worked for the magazine, this guy come in for the Aldous PageMaker, the first version ever on an Apple. And I was like, oh my God, I was so enthralled. I was like, oh, wow, look at, he's doing all the layout and design on a computer. Because in those days we were doing what they called lick and stick, where you take the photographs and you do the artboard
and he was literally dragging over a photo.
Yeah. And we're like, whoa. And so I had to learn that. So I started learning it. And at the time, I was buying both Apple and Windows. I was doing everything I could to keep up with the industry, Apples and Windows. I was buying them both. And Apple back then was $4,500 for a computer that could actually do anything. It was like, and I was married, had a wife and 2 kids. It wasn't easy. But anyway, I was doing all I could and learning all I could. And
Apple's still way more expensive than a PC. Anyway, keep going.
Yeah. So anyway, so this is how we made net. And so me and a bunch of reporters got together, and I said, look, I've been doing this magazine, and I've learned this, and I've learned that. And I used to, there for a while, I was putting out this little newspaper called the Idaho Outback. It was all hunting and fishing news. Because to me, that was culture. That was Idaho culture. Sure. It was hunting, fishing, and guns. We even had the Idaho Automatic Gun Club news in there, out there shooting, 500 rounds at a time. But so I said, I could put together a newspaper. If we all get the stories together, I can put it together and I can send it over. At the time, Mountain Home News. They had their own press, and they only charged like $100 for like 1,000 copies of an 8-page newspaper. It was very affordable. So we went out, we sold the ads, we put it together. But before that, we went to ASBSU and we said, hey, we're going to produce our own newspaper. If you guys can't get your act together and get the student newspaper back running, we're going to create our own. But we're happy to include you. And the president and the vice president said, you can't do that. And we're like, what do you mean you can't do that? They said, no, you can't do that. If you produce a campus newspaper, that's contraband. And we're going to fine you $1 for every copy on campus. 2 weeks later, we came out with a newspaper called Contraband Student News.
Oh my God.
Now, this is how
is
how we made national news. Was, God, I'm going to sound like a liberal, but I'm not. But At the time, the BSU president, I don't know anything about him. They had removed all, and come on, BSU is traditionally an adult college. Older, 30s, 40s, lots of students in that. Not the younger demographic,
Sure.
Middle-aged to older. You even got students there that are in their 70s. That was BSU at that time. I don't know now. I'm alumni, but I don't go there anymore, so I don't know what the demographics are. But at the time, it was more of an older person's college. And so whatever it was with the president and his office, they went and they removed all the condom machines from the bathrooms. I mean, you remember, you go and put a couple of quarters, you get a condom, and now you got
a condom.
Yeah, you got baby control, whatever, and STD control, protection, whatever. But and I agree, as an adult student, that's your choice, right? You're an adult. If you want to put 50 cents in there and buy that's your right.
And if you don't, then don't.
That's right. And they removed them all because whatever. Well, we're doing repairs and we're doing upgrades and we got to remove them all. Well, it'd been like a year and a half. And the students were complaining and we were reporting on it. The students were like, we'd like to see condom machines, healthcare back in the bathroom so we can access those products.
They just didn't want to go to the drugstore and have to see the cashier look in the eyes.
Yeah,
you want anonymous condom supplies. It's not like they removed the condom supplies from Boise. You just had to say hello to somebody as you were buying your Saturday night at Good Time.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's that.
Hi, I'm the old guy that's sexually active.
Yeah, right. How embarrassing for you. Anyway, keep going.
Exactly. So
what do you think's worse? What do you think's worse? Buying condoms or buying tampons? Like getting sent to the store and like having to buy as like a married dude, you go in, you're like, okay, here we are. Or going in now as like a gentleman, both of them. And
I'll tell you that story.
Touchy subject.
I'll tell you that story after the interview. But anyway, so
this conversation's coming unglued.
Right? So as a newspaper, and we'd had a few issues out, and we were instantly popular, contraband student news. And we did the whole story on why we were contraband student news. And of course, the communication department loved it. They were like, oh yeah, we had lots of support but we were all mostly communication department.
Sure.
And English department students and journalism, communication, they're kind of hand in hand.
BSU has a rhetoric department as well, right? I believe they do. That was my major.
Not in my day.
Oh, well, I think they do now. What's wrong? People that want to be good at doing nothing but BS.
I think almost every department was a rhetoric department in some form or another. But anyway, so we had a round table, and I was sitting there, and I looked up at the round table, and I said, what if we report on this condom story, and we put a free condom in every issue? And they're like, how are we going to do that? And I said, you know what? We're going to have a pizza party. And we're going to go downtown and we're going to find 4 or 5 homeless people that want some beer and some pizza. And they'll come over and they'll sit with us. And we'll sit here and we'll start an assembly line on the floor and we'll pass each copy to each other. One guy does tape. One guy does a condom. The other guy folds it and stacks it. And they're like, let's do it. So we came out with an issue, and we even came up.
How many of those?
I even came out with this cartoon guy called Condom Man, like a superhero with a mask and the little Superman.
That's like straight out of Lethal Weapon.
Yeah. Had a C on his chest and a cape, and he was like Condom Man.
What was it? Come on. What was that movie? Not Lethal Gun. What was it? Lethal Weapon?
Lethal Weapon.
That was
One
the
and
spoof.
two and
No,
three.
but that was the spoof.
When that Danny Glover and
No,
Mel Gibson.
the spoof on that.
Oh, I didn't.
There was a spoof where the main one of the main characters was like, "Do you practice safe sex?" And he was like, "Always." And then they were in life-size condoms and like smashed into each other and fell on the bed.
I'm not.
Oh my gosh, I gotta figure this. God, they're the same guys that did Hot Shots 1 and Part 2. The same. You know what I'm talking. I guarantee you know what I'm talking about. Probably. It's not Lethal. It's like Lethal Gun or something. It was like. All right, keep going. So the condom guy.
Yeah. So we put this together, and I think at the time we were doing 1,500 copies, and we sat there for 4 or 5 hours.
Naked Gun.
Oh, Naked Gun.
Naked Gun. That's when they had the
Nielsen.
two. Yeah.
Leslie Nielsen.
That's when they had the two life-size condoms, people. That's when there was a scene in that movie when the gal goes up on a ladder to grab a book, and the guy's like, "Nice beaver." And she's like, "Why, thank you." And she hands him down a stuffed beaver. And I'm like, what an odd thing. Because I was like 8. I'm like, what an odd thing to say. Well, whatever. Moving on with life.
Yeah, exactly.
I also didn't understand the life-size condom joke either because I was 8. I was a feral child. Anyway, right? Keep going.
So we sat there on this floor with homeless people.
With homeless people.
And the condoms were donated from a health organization.
Oh, great.
And we stuffed like, I don't know, it was like 1,500 or 2,000 copies of free condom inside. And it was this whole story how BSU admin and their failure to reinstall condom machines, and therefore we're giving you a free condom. And the next thing I know, I'm on national NBC. Hey, Ernest. And I'm like, yeah. Yeah, we got to stick it to the man. We've been asking for condom machines for years, and they just,
oh my God.
Oh yeah, we got to do the spackle on the wall. Come on. So anyway.
Wait, did you have to go to a studio somewhere? Or did they call you on the phone?
No, they caught me outside somewhere on campus.
Oh my God, they had a guy and a camera?
Yeah.
Oh my God. Yeah.
It was like NBC. I was like, wow.
I was on MSNBC like a couple months ago. They played a clip of the podcast with one of the West Ada admin guys right there, baby.
That's
you
awesome.
And me, we're like the same thing, except, separated by many life experiences. Yeah. That's hilarious. And I didn't have any hot take. I just talked to this guy and MSNBC blasted me for it. God bless it. So you supplied a lot of 2,000 condoms to needy BSU students.
And I don't know. It was what it was. It was fun. And we did a lot of stories like that. We used to do these cartoons, and we'd always show the president with like flies buzzing around their head. And
can we come back to where we started this conversation with with just God bless America?
Absolutely.
Like what, as imperfect and as flawed as everyone's history is, including America's, like what an incredible place. Like my mom got remarried after my parents got divorced, and her now husband asked me one time, and I was a younger guy. I was like 20, in my early mid 20s, and he asked me, he was like, "Look, do you think you're like good at life, super skilled, or do you think you're lucky?" And I thought about this, because he asked me on the spot. We were just out to lunch somewhere, and I was like, "Man, I'm like 6'2". I'm a normal looking guy. I was born in the best country, and in my opinion, in the history of the world.
Sure.
In an area that was not depressed or terrible. I had parents that didn't beat me or abuse me. Like whatever skill set I have, you can't replace those odds. And at the core of it, it's like I was born in America. Mm-hmm. And that, considering what, we're 5% of the world population or 4% or something, like it's pretty small. It's a pretty small number. To be born in America at this time, at this world, like what an incredible gift the universe gave us.
I am continually stymied by why wouldn't other countries of the world adopt our Constitution as their own. You know, we talk about one world government, and I'm totally opposed to one world government because it's,
Did we talk about one world government? I don't recall that.
No, but I'm just saying I'm
like
opposed
we,
to it
sure.
because we're talking WEF kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And Klaus Schwab or whatever his name.
Oh my gosh.
You will have nothing and you will be happy.
Right.
And you'll eat bugs. Sorry, dude. No.
I like a good T-bone.
But as in my own mind, and just preponderance come on, you get elected or you're a dictator or whatever. You're there for the time that you're there. Why wouldn't you want to be the very best that you could possibly be? Why wouldn't you want that? Why would you want to be a little tin-pot dictator and smack people around and keep them down? Why wouldn't you want to be a glorious, magnanimous that people actually, not because they were forced to, but because, you were. Why don't you want to be the real deal?
Ernest, this is like Lord of the Rings.
Yeah.
Like, look at this. I have the one ring. Okay. To be clear, this is my wedding ring.
Right.
Right? Like, everybody wants the ring of power because everybody thinks if I could just be in power, I'd make it right. And look, as a communication person, I deeply believe that, and this is a horrible even to bring up his name, but I deeply believe that Joe Rogan's format of, hey, I don't know anything, like deeply.
The precious, right.
It's like, look, let me tell you something. In 23, I interviewed a bunch of the mayoral candidates for the city of Eagle. It was like some of my first, real, started taking off. It was like episode 48, 49, whatever. And now I'm in the 500s. Fine. But I remember thinking privately, I'm like, out of all the guys I interviewed, that guy would probably be the best, right? Whoever it was. And in the wake of that, I've had to wonder, are you sure you were right? And the answer is no. I have no idea if I was right or wrong, right? And I'll never know, right? Because we don't know what the alternative is. But recognizing that, it's like, dude, you better be really careful because you turn on this mic and, at the time when I had when that was going on, the episodes were getting, 600, 700 views and people were getting hold of me wow, and then clips would go out and thousands of people would watch them. And it's like, hey man, people are listening. And if you're so arrogant to think you know what's right and wrong, you just remember that. And it truly is, in my opinion, it's the ring of power. And I think people, especially in other countries that have dictatorships, those people are like, hey man, just give me the power. Just give me the ring. I'll do the right thing. If everybody just listens to me, I'll do it the right way. That's, I think, fundamental to a lot of people's human nature, that you have to really deeply believe that that's a problem. Mm-hmm. And you also have to have a level of humility with yourself personally that says hey, if you think you're the smartest guy in the room, you're the wrong guy to have the ring.
Right.
That's what it is.
I'm not proselytizing. I'm not trying to promote, but that is the core philosophy behind Star Spirit Magazine, which I don't know if you know, we also have Middleton Spirit Magazine now too.
Look at you.
But Spirit Media, which is the parent company.
Yeah.
Honestly, Star Spirit Magazine, Middleton Spirit, they're products. The company's actually Spirit Media. But the core belief, which I believe is Idaho, behind Spirit Media is, if I help you succeed and I help him and him and him, then I'll succeed. I want everyone to win, because when everyone wins, we all win. But I want you to win. So I'm doing everything I can to help you. That's why, again, not trying to sell anything.
Sure.
Not trying to sell, but Spirit Media is all about helping the little guy, the little business, all my pricing. I went and bought a printer and I print in my home. I can print on demand. I print my magazine in my home. And I do all the preparing and the hand delivery because I'm trying to save people money and make winning affordable for them. I'm trying to make it affordable, that you can get the attention, you can get the eyes that you need. That's what's behind Star Community News and Chatter. You know, we have 7 groups.
I did notice that. Yeah, you have quite a few. And the Star Community one is up at like 12,000 members or something.
It's
like
actually over 14.
There you go.
You know what? I just want to say real quick, we get over 600 people a month who ask to join, and about 50% of them are declined because they're obviously from Pakistan or whatever. India or somewhere. And nothing against those people, but you have no business being in a Star group about Star, Idaho. You have no business in being in Middleton, Nampa, Caldwell, those groups. You just have no business.
You have done a remarkable job. And again, I told you even before we went on air, you've done a remarkable job of keeping an online space, which are usually just wrought with insanity. Not like that. Like it's not just, hey, this is duct cleaning, whatever, right? Like I just moved here with my husband. We have a small business. We're duct cleaners or carpet cleaners, get you a good rate. It's like, oh my gosh. And somehow you have actually cultivated a group that does not engage, doesn't tolerate that, doesn't engage in that. You have real things going on.
And I only ask 2 things of people. You're Joe Small Business. Maybe you're making tamales. Maybe you're, I don't know, got a little, hey, I'd like to clean your house. I only ask 2 things of you. And that is verify that you're real and like and follow my page. I help you, you help me. That's all I ask. I'm not asking for money, and I'll let you advertise once a month to over 14. Actually, if you can advertise in all my groups once you verify, that's like 30,000 people for free. And my closest competitor, they want money and they can reach 6,000 people. What are we talking about here? And I got people that are like, oh, I ain't liking following your page, dude.
Well, then what do you don't?
Well, then get out of my group. Yeah. Go advertise your junk in the Star group from Boise.
The Star group from Boise.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, that doesn't give two anything about Star, 2 cents about Star, and doesn't moderate their group and lets every Pakistani and India guy join their group. You go be in that group.
Yeah.
That's fine. I'm offering you some quality. Am I perfect? No. Do I always give the right answer? No. But I've been doing it for over 10 years. I'm going to give you my best answer. It may be right. It may be wrong.
Anybody who's tried for a second to hold a public space in the last 5 or 10 years, they instantly realize how difficult it is. Right. And just I've had to figure out how to deal with people on my platforms. I've had to figure out what is my position. Do I moderate comments? Do I not moderate comments? Do I moderate comments when they become egregious? What's my principles with the egregious designation? Like, all this, if somebody just says you're all Nazis in Idaho, do I take that person out? Do I leave that person in? If there are people that obviously are burner accounts, they're following, 1,200 people and they have 2 followers themselves, 0 posts, and they come on.
Out you go.
Yeah. So it's like, okay. And then are you responsible if you're saying, hey, my policy is that I'm going to throw out people that I think are bots? Why didn't you think this person was a bot? Why did you?
Right.
It's an impossible task to do perfectly. And I think if anybody has criticism of the work you've been doing, it's like, listen, yeah, maybe you're not perfect, but I'll tell you what, as far as groups I've seen in Idaho, You're doing a damn good job, man. And as somebody else who has a public platform, this is a very, very difficult job to do.
Well, yeah. And even, we try to keep the politics to a minimum in the community news and events group. But I have Politistar, which I created for the people that want to be more volatile or more involved in the political, because the majority of people, they're like, right? Oh my God, I can't believe he posted that. Well, okay. We're going to put you in this other group, Politistar. I don't know if you're in that one.
I didn't know about it until 30 seconds ago.
Oh.
Can I ask you something? In Politistar, is it actually about star politics and Idaho? Because most Idaho
it's
political
about
groups.
all politics.
Okay, this is the thing. I find most people don't know anything about Idaho politics. Most people that talk politics in Idaho only talk national. It's like, well, did you know about this? Did you know about this? What about this? They don't. All they want to do, you either want to say Trump is great or you want to say Trump is the devil. That's what people want to do in those groups. It's like, can we talk about Idaho politics though?
Well, we have Politistar, but we, whatever. Come on, you got an audience. They're active. You got to let them say whatever. I don't want to say whatever they want to say.
No, and I'm
but
not
within Facebook rules. Because
100%.
here's the deal. Facebook owns a platform.
Sure.
I don't own the platform. I just set up a group. It's their rules. It's a private
group.
It's not City Hall. You have no First Amendment rights on Facebook. If it were up to me, you would. But I'm not Mark Zuckerberg, and I don't own Facebook. I'm going to give you as much free speech as I possibly can. But when you post something that gets me in trouble with Facebook, because they hold me responsible, not you. Well, you too, but me as an admin, I'm in the doghouse.
Which is hilarious because their argument for things that go onto their platforms is we're just the platform. We don't.
Right.
So it's like, why don't you extend that same courtesy to me? I'm just holding the group.
Yeah. Well, you know what? I do think Zuckerberg has tucked his tail between his legs. He goes with the flow. When Biden was president, he went with Biden. The Biden ethonomics, if you will. And now that Trump's president, he's kind of leaning towards Trump ethonomics.
Yeah.
Ethiconomics is what I mean. If it's such a term.
To be clear, I'm not saying that you should do something about people talking about national politics. What I'm saying is I find it interesting that from my perspective, a lot of times when people talk politics in Idaho, they just talk national politics. And I'm so connected to the politics in Idaho, not making them or making commentary on them, but expressing them, right? Communicating, and not even me, just having, Senator Cody Galloway on or Mayor McLean on. It's like, listen, I'm not telling you what they're doing. They're going to tell you what they're doing. And it's interesting because people don't know about that stuff, right? Mm-hmm. People know national politics and then they turn off. And I don't know. I think it'd be cool if people rallied around Idaho more, if they paid attention to Idaho more.
Yeah, we're very subtle. The natives, our culture, we're very subtle and we're easily treaded upon because we are take your shoes off, like I said earlier. Hold the door open, take your shoes off. And people will take advantage of that. And that's a shame because it's genuine. And you won't find, I'm not going to say, actually, I spent a lot of time in like Galliano and Fourchon, Louisiana. Mm. Down there, they call me Boudreaux.
Are you serious?
I'm dead serious.
Is it because of your hat?
No, I have been in my formative years. Everybody called me Bud, and I didn't start using it, though Ernest is my legal name. I didn't start really using it till I started Star Spirit magazine because I wanted to set apart friendship from business. And people that address me as Ernest, I would be like, oh, we're talking business. People who know me closely, hey, Bud, well, that's a friend, somebody I know more intimately. was kind of the thought at the time. Now the
And
lines
now you're going to be Boudreaux Wood from here on out, my guy.
yeah, Boudreaux Woody.
Boudreaux. Boudreaux.
That's right. Hey, Boudreaux.
That's correct me if I'm wrong, but that's the French influence, right? That's
French Creole.
Yeah.
Cajun.
Le Bou.
Yeah. And I spent a lot of time in southern Louisiana. Oh my God, their unemployment benefits are dreadful. Like $200 a month.
Does that drive down unemployment?
I would suspect so. But it's a different economy down there. But see, when in my job offshore, submarine pilot, and I worked for like Shell, Chevron, BP. I helped cap the BP oil spill.
Did you?
I was one of 6 pilots on the BP oil spill.
And you went down after it blew up.
Yeah, I was there 3 months. And everybody's like, how come it took so long to shut that off? Well, I could give you a 30-minute explanation on why it took so long. But it was 2 miles deep. You're working with robotic submarines. And you just had to remove a lot of debris and cut up a lot of metal. And you had to build what's called mud mats and stack a deck on the bottom of the ocean, 2 miles deep.
I saw Deep Horizon, the film. And again, I'm not saying that is an accurate representation.
I think it was. My experience offshore, it was largely accurate, except for when they ran upstairs and jumped off the higher level.
That was hilarious.
What
kind of car do you like? Oh, and then he throws her off.
Yeah, it would totally broke their legs.
That's pretty high up.
That part was Hollywood.
But just seeing that representation of the plug deep down, it's like that was a reasonably accurate representation.
I think so. Having spent 10 years offshore, and I've worked on floating oil rigs. Deepwater Horizon was a floating oil rig. I think the reason it sank had nothing to do with the fire and everything to do with the fire boats, because that thing is a platform floating on 4 to 6 huge. Imagine a farm silo here in Idaho, but it's a flotation device, and there's 4 to 6 of them on a oil rig, on a floating oil rig. That's what keeps that thing is the size of 5 city blocks wide.
That's what keeps it floating.
Yeah, you got 4, depending on, some of them are a little smaller, but you got 4 to 6 grain silos, huge grain silos, but they're flotation devices. And you can even go down inside of them. They got staircases, and you go down and there's engines and because GPS and engines.
Because they're dropping essentially a spaghetti noodle off of the Eiffel Tower down and poking holes in the bottom of the ocean.
Right, but that spaghetti noodle is big enough for you to crawl through on your hands and knees.
Right. Well, you're also going farther than the Eiffel Tower, right? Like you're talking miles, and you expand
2 miles.
out. Yeah, there you go.
2 miles deep. That's when you hit the bottom. That's where you start drilling. So you got another 18,000 feet to go, typically, before you hit oil. And it's funny.
So you're collectively like 5 miles off of the surface of the ocean before you hit oil.
Yeah.
Wow. I had no idea.
Yeah. And what we'll do is we'll go in, we'll drop that drill string, like you said, and we'll drill down, maybe 100 yards. And then we drop that pipe that's this big around, and it just sinks into the mud. Because you're not really drilling. You're just swirling mud and water and blowing it and sucking it up and blowing it out a couple 100 feet above you. And it just creates a hole in the mud. You're not really drilling. You're creating a hole in the mud. And then you sink this pipe down it's a stem pipe. It's called a stem pipe. You sink it down in the mud. And then you come back and you fill it full of cement. It's like a plug. And you fill this thing full of cement, and then you come back, and then you drill another hole in the middle of it that's tiny, like this big. And you drill all the way through it.
And that way, everything that has to pass once you hit oil has to go through that choke point.
That's so that when you do hit oil, it doesn't just go, it allows you to control oil, because some of that oil could be under tremendous pressure when you hit that pocket. Thousands and thousands of PSI, hundreds of thousands of PSI. And, the BP oil spill was coming out of a crack in the pipeline, because it's hooked up to a riser pipe that's 2 miles long. The fireboats sink it because they filled the flotation device with water. Well, it sank. It goes like this. It's like a fulcrum. I got pictures of Deepwater. I got pictures and video of Deepwater Horizon on the bottom. I've never released them. I've never shown them out of respect for the dead. But I have them. They're on my I have them on DVD.
Wow.
But I've never shown them because it's respect for the job, respect for the company, respect for the deceased. But yeah.
And that came out of a crack in the cement.
4,800 PSI. Oil. Natural oil. But the one thing I will say, the incident proved that we have the technology to contain a disaster like that, to contain and rectify a huge disaster, because that's what they did. Yeah, you got PMSNBC out there showing a couple pelicans and a seagull covered in oil on the shores of Louisiana. Well, yeah, but it wasn't very many. It was a lot less than what they wanted you to believe. And I was out there on this. I was on the main ship that was of operations. Oh my gosh. I should let you listen to some of the audio sometime. The director of BP out there yelling, but we won't go there.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. But
was the character, the John Malkovich character from that film, was that an accurate representation of the person who was kind of responsible for pushing forward?
Somewhat, but it was edited for political correctness.
Oh, I'm sure.
Extremely edited for political correctness. But that's offshore life. Right. When you're offshore, come on, man. You're offshore. This is real life. We don't have time for your feelings. We don't have time for, we're all about safety, but we don't have time for
other stuff.
PC. We're getting the job done, and BP's paying the bill, and you got to show results, or you can just go home. Sorry, if you can't make it happen, you're going home. So, but sometime I'll have to share some photos with you.
Yeah. Ernest, listen to me, man. We've been going for a while here. God bless you, sir. This is a wild conversation.
Well, wait a minute. I got to wrap up.
Okay, go.
I
don't even know what time it is. Okay, great. Keep going.
All right. Well,
go.
If I had to say anything, I just want folks to know, I learned, I've worked for Albertsons. I've worked for, AgriBeef in their publishing department. I worked for Micron, and it was through the corporate world, about 10 years of my career, that I learned that I don't need them. I can produce a magazine without them. I don't need their resources. I don't need their direction. And I don't mean that to sound arrogant. I mean that I was producing 430-page publications at their direction and working overtime and getting it done. At some point, there was an epiphany that, wow, I could do my own magazine. I don't need these people. I don't need to work for them. I could work for me. And the people that I serve. And I wanted to do that. And really the fundamental focus of Spirit Media is to help other people win. Because when other people win, the economy wins, and we all win. I have a little bit of a burr in my saddle. These big chains come in, McDonald's. There's no need to name names, but
Sure. Everybody
companies
knows.
like that, they don't support local. They just don't. The big chains are less likely to support local, but they want local to sure support them. Oh, come buy my thing. Oh, do we do business and start? No. Do we support other business? No. But we sure want you to come support us. What kind of rhetoric is that? No. And that's Idaho. People that come here, especially, not to pick on Californians, but especially an area like LA, where they have several cities all close together. It's like, well, you can be from here, you can be from there. No. Idaho? Years ago, I started, I had a Canyon County magazine. And I was living in Star, but I went over and I got me a Nampa P.O. box for it. Canyon County Magazine, Nampa, Idaho. And I did well. But I had an attorney from Boise decide, I want to do a 2C magazine. And he come over and I had been out like maybe 3 or 4 months before he was. And I had printed copies. I mean, it was proof, evidence. And I seen him come out and he was putting his magazine all over. And his magazine literally had just about the same name as mine. And I don't know, 6-8 months went by and I get a letter from him. Well, you need to cease and desist because you're violating my trademark. And I sent him back a copy of the magazine. I'm like, I don't know. I was out 3-4 months before you. And I haven't harassed you. So you tell me what's fair. Never heard from him again. So I don't know. Funny things like that. And the thing about that is there's plenty of business for everybody. I mean, you just got to deliver. If you're delivering, there's plenty for everybody. But I want to see everyone win. My prices, again, not trying to sell anything. I'm just talking about philosophy, are geared to help the little guy. I want to help the little guy. I want to help everyone win, because when everyone wins, we all win. And I have a philosophy in life, and I heard this years ago at an Amway convention, which I don't do Amway anymore because they told me, well, I won't go there. They told me Jesus came to save America through Amway. But
oh my gosh.
Yeah. I was like, okay.
You got to have a pitch.
Yeah. But I was like, all right, I'm out. But that was a secret. Anyway.
Ernest, you're the best, man.
But they told me that, I lost my choo-choo.
Listen to me. I appreciate you. I appreciate what you've shared with me today. You know, again, I try to soak up as much Idaho as I can every single day. And for the first bit of time that I was living here, I got really anxious because I realized I exist here, but I don't really exist here because I don't even know what here is. And there was no real way for me to understand that. And it's only through meeting people like you and being able to share a drink and sit down that I've started kind of piecing together what it is. And again, so I just really appreciate you coming out.
I would add to that for you to consider patience, long suffering, and kick off your shoes. That's Idaho. Not at every turn, but predominantly. And that we got to root out the rhinos. But
oh my God. Oh, you said rhino. God bless you, sir. Listen, let's do this again.
All right.
Thanks, sir.
Sounds